Happy Wednesday. My name is Pat Howlett, and I'm running for the Trinidad City Mayor. And this is the third session. I do these on Wednesdays. This won't take very long. I'm hoping to get this in about 15 minutes or so, or less. So we'll see how successful I am. This one's going to be on infrastructure. And so one of the things I want to start with, and I have this steps on soapbox, because there's things that I can't put in a PowerPoint slide. This isn't going to take very long, but I want you to get an understanding of how I think about infrastructure at a base level. And so where I'd like to start is generally accepted accounting practices that most local governments and municipalities use counts infrastructure as an asset, not a liability. So we kind of think that the more roads, the more pipes, the more public buildings, the more water pumps a city has, the richer it is. And to me, that's backwards, okay? Investments in infrastructure, they don't pay a return on that investment, okay? And the reason is future maintenance costs need to be taken into account whenever new projects are considered. Now, here's where we find ourselves in Trinidad. We have a lot of projects that aren't new projects. These are buildings that in some cases were under disrepair, in many cases are being transitioned to a different use. But many times the sidewalks, the streets, the infrastructure around those hasn't been maintained, and so we have maintenance costs in order to bring that up to date. So we have this infrastructure, and we need to catch up on it, on all the past maintenance that we just weren't able to do based on all kinds of constraints, mostly budgetary, and the times that the tough times that our city went through. And so my thinking is, when we build new, and we will build new in the future, we need to build where the infrastructure is already in place, where we already have roads and sidewalks that we'll repair, that we already have water and sewer, okay? Because a community's assets, they're not the streets and all that other stuff. What a community's assets really are the homes where people live and the businesses that line the streets. Now, these pay for everything, okay? So here's the reality. Unlike the federal government, Trinidad can't run perpetual deficits. We can't go into debt and run a deficit. We also can't print money. So the city either pays as it goes, and there's been challenging times with regards to that, or it pays later. Well, now is later to me. And as a localist, and you'll hear me say that from time to time, I kind of believe a little differently. I believe that a financially strong America is a result of having financially strong towns, cities, and counties. I do not believe that cities are financially stronger and healthy if we have a strong state or a strong national economy. And we see that here. And many times when Trinidad and southern Colorado have been in the most challenging times, our country and our state have been in times of abundance. And so it's really important for us to do things here first, and so it's kind of, economic strength is built from the bottom up, just like the foundation of a building. So the thinking goes that successful streets create successful neighborhoods, and prosperous neighborhoods where there's businesses and services, that makes a prosperous city, and strong, stable cities make a strong, stable state and nation. I did tell you, I warned you, soapbox, okay? It's not the other way around. Now, so due to the decades of economic challenge that we've had and delayed maintenance, our infrastructure requires large investments. Each iteration of Trinidad's past growth throughout our history, and its incredible history, those booms and busts, that created really enormous future liabilities, which, quite frankly, many are coming due right now, okay? And we're in good times again to be able to take advantage of the opportunity to resolve some of those nagging outstanding issues, because we have a backlog of routine infrastructure repairs that need to be performed. Here's another way I think, is each generation, I'm 64, 65 soon, but each generation each generation of folks that have been in Trinidad all their lives, people that are coming new to Trinidad, we have an obligation, in my mind, to make it easier on the next, so that like we have something solid to build upon, our brick streets and our incredible turn of the century buildings and the river and the incredible blessings we have those that we're building upon, but we need to leave things in better shape for the next generation to build upon. And so let's get with it, okay? So one of the first things I wanted to talk about with regards to infrastructure is to update and stabilize power and light. Now, I'm a study. I'm a guy that reads and studies and listens and takes in different perspectives and tries to find the best answer, not my best answer, okay? So I do like collectives. I do like working. I would love to work with the city council and the city manager and the planner and the staff. I work well in groups. I play well with others. So recently, I've been watching a lot of the past town board meeting or city council meetings, the past work sessions, retreats, and those things. And one of them popped out to me, and it was a recent city work session where the goal was in that session was to get every city department to provide a 5-year plan. Love it. They did a great job. There was a lot of great information on there. I highly encourage you to go watch that and see your city leaders at work. They're pretty awesome in my mind, okay? But in one area, the director of Power and Light shared that he was having a problem putting together a 5-month plan. He was doing things 5-day plans. He was having challenges with aging infrastructure, personnel and equipment shortages, accounting and billing problems. Now, I've got to admit, I don't know, and I don't think you know, the level of where that is right now. It could not be a big problem. It could be a huge problem. So for me, when that happens, I like to try and look about an independent view, another bird's eye view, somebody independent. So my recommendation in this would be to get an independent audit of Power and Light, so we know exactly what the challenges are. So we know, when we know what the challenges are, we can plan on resolving them and incrementally do so. But you'll find with me, I like real open communication. I like, the catchword is transparency, but then nothing gets transparent. But I do believe in that, and I like full disclosure. And so that's one of the tenets you'll find with the way I approach everything, with my relationships, personal and business, and with the job of being the mayor of Trinidad. So the bottom line will be all the future growth that we see out there will depend on a stable electric utility and grid. So the next thing is we need to protect our watershed. We know there are fires. We know that there have been severe droughts, and we know that when a fire happens in a severe drought, it takes over and has a mind of its own. It gets a life of its own. So our thinking needs to be not if we have a fire, but when. And we need to prepare for that when. And I think it's imperative. One of our priorities, maybe this should have been the first slide I did, but it's imperative we protect our water now. This is North Lake. It's beautiful. If you drive Legends Highway, Highway 12, you'll loop around that thing. It is beautiful. It's ours. It's our water. And I appreciate Rusty Goodall. He's also running for mayor. I appreciate him for making this a priority. It would be a priority for me as well, and should be a priority for you. We found out a lot of things over the last 18 months, and I want to move forward quickly, and I have some experience in this area. I was an internet service provider in a big chunk of Colorado, northern Colorado, years ago, for about 13 years though. So I put in fiber and wireless and DSL and and even in the early days, modems, if anybody remembers them. But so I have some experience in this area, and I know that as we move forward and we attract kind of new, higher paying jobs that people bring with them, small industries coming here. I don't believe we're going to have many savior businesses, companies come here and hire 400 people at a time. I appreciate that the mine is here, and I appreciate it's open, and I think we should do everything we can to make them successful. But I also believe that as we move in the future, more tech nomads, our creative community and economy, and our outdoor recreation economy, those will be in many cases smaller industries, smaller footprints, but more businesses, and across the board more jobs. But we need high-speed internet access to attract them. Now, What I'm proposing is more in the core area right now. So first, what we need to do is modernize the city and county buildings. I'm a believer in working in a rural area with everybody. Okay, so the city, the county, multiple school districts, the college, and so what I think we need to do is get a fiber loop connecting all of our municipal buildings, upgrade software, make sure we're running on those things, make sure we can't be hacked, and that ransomware and those kind of things are in there, and we reduce the vulnerabilities that a lot of towns at our size have, and so we have a fiber loop that goes through those areas, and then we connect in that fiber loop. We connect wireless access, high-speed wireless access points there, and I've done both of those things before. The longer term goal, of course, would be to get high-speed access to the community, either through this investment, and there's a lot of things happening in the community broadband space that we need to look at, or via negotiation with the private service providers that are already in the area. But again, my thing would be to make sure they deliver on what they promise, and I'm not a big fan of giving people monopolies and then allowing them to allow services to degrade over time. So that'd be something that's a long-term goal. I certainly want to work, and I always will allude to this and be really direct, but I want to work with the school district. I want to work with the college. I want to leverage investment wherever it's possible across all sectors. And what COVID taught, I think, a lot of us really quickly, especially if you had kids, is that our kids were negatively affected. Many of them just did not have the computers, the access, those things at their homes. So some families, they had a smartphone to share with, and you just can't learn on that. And so it put us and our kids at major disadvantages up north. So certainly, first we'll be getting the city and the county to work together to increase the broadband in our area, and then work with the school district and the college to move that. And I think once we do those things, a lot of benefit will be there. So continued public works projects and ADA. Now I use the word continue because it may be hard for some to see the increase in activities that's already taking place, but it's happening. If you drive around, and I do, you'll see the potholes and the bricks and the sidewalks and the things that need attention, but you're also going to see a lot of work that's already underway. The mayor, the city council, the city manager, the city planner, public works, and all of our areas that are already on top of. But it took a long time to get here, okay? So it may not be hitting your street yet, but I would like to encourage you to be patient right now, and for the future a bit, because vital projects have been addressed. I'll use the Santa Fe project as a case in point. There was a huge water leak there. It wasn't just fixing up the road. And in water, when you have a problem in Colorado, you fix it, okay? So tip of the hat to the folks who actually made that a priority. I think the communication could have been a whole lot better, both with the public, but also with the businesses most affected in that area. You'll always hear me talk communication. You're starting to see that, hopefully, when you look at my page and you look at some of the things I'm doing, is to let you know exactly what I think, take full responsibility when I make a mistake, but do it incrementally to where they're not big mistakes, okay? So since it took a long time to get, due to neglected maintenance, to get where we are right now, it's going to take some time and investment to catch up. Again, incrementally we catch up. I have a thought with regards to prioritization I'll share in a second, and you need patience right now. So what I'm a believer in is collaborative talk. I like the best idea. I don't think the best idea comes from me, but I think if you get a group of reasonably prudent people together, and there's no agenda. The agenda is the objective. It's the mission. I'm kind of military trained, so I'll use those kind of words from time to time. But I believe that our roads, our sidewalks, our trail work, all those things should get some input from the most affected people, so the stakeholders that are most affected. And certainly those include our disabled, our mobility challenged, and our seniors. To me, ADA compliance is a good thing for our community. So what I've suggested is setting up a task force, whether I'm mayor or not, a task force, and to help create and set priorities. Now I know through the past legal problems with the ADA, I think the Department of Justice has a priority list that they're working through in order for us to be compliant there. But I'm not a top-down guy. I'm a bottom-up person. So this wouldn't be a committee. I know when I posed that before, it was called that we don't need more committees, and I agree with that. But this would be a task force, and a task force has a very specific task: mobility, sidewalks. How does one get around the city? And it has a specific time period in which they're supposed to do that. So I would pursue that, and you'll find many cases, if I were elected mayor, that I'm going to bring the most affected stakeholders at whatever subject we're talking to, and we're going to visit, and we're going to make sure we're heard, and we're going to communicate with that. Update Chapter 14 Land Use Code. Pat, didn't you have that in the housing thing? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. The fact is, there's going to be needs for new infrastructure here soon. Okay, there's going to be proposals, and we're on the map as in a big blipping radar dot. Okay, and so developers are coming. I want us to get ahead. I guess for me, I have a sense of urgency that's requiring that I run, and so what I would like us to do is address the limitations of Chapter 14. So that more development is done in our core areas that already have the infrastructure. We're talking about infrastructure. Well, we have hundreds of years. We have 100 some odd years of infrastructure. My house is an 1890 home. Well, it's attached to the water and sewer, and everything kind of works here good. There are services, street cleaning, and those kind of things. There are restaurants. There's that incredible Trinidad quality of life. That's where I'd like to focus a lot of our attention in Chapter 14. So our core areas that already have infrastructure, we leverage that. Put a little meat on the bone, as we say, okay? And so you're going to find me looking and looking, because I believe that the smaller local developers, those are the ones we should incentivize, okay? Those are the ones that there's incentives. And when I say small local developer, I mean you. If you have the ability, when we update the Chapter 14, to put an ADU on your house, or let's say you have a little house on a big lot, maybe you can make your current house the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit, and build a bigger house so that grandma and grandpa can live in the small place and get support from the family. And mom, dad, and the kids can live in the bigger house, and we can go back to what Trinidad knew for most of its history, is families living close together and being supportive, okay? So I'm more for this. When I say small local developers, I kind of mean you. I also mean some of our developers that have been here in the thick and thin and the tough and the good. And they should be the incentivized persons. I'm more for large developers paying all the cost relative to their development. I'm not for providing incentives to large developers. The market and their equity and their profit should be incentive enough. Now, am I firm in that? Pretty much so, but I listen, and we have a council and a planning, zoning, and variance committees that actually will help guide people through that, okay? But Chapter 14 needs to be looked at. I also want, if we'll need new infrastructure, and we'll have developers coming in the future that will want to add new development. I just want to make sure that we take a real close look, that part of that rubric, part of that metric, is we take a real close look at the maintenance costs of those developments. Because if somebody comes in, and let's say they build 300 homes, and they've got the homes in there, and there's water and sewer, those kind of things in there, and well, they sell the development and move on. Okay, now it may be 10, 20, 30 years from that development to where it actually needs more maintenance. We don't want it. We want them to be maintained, and what developers usually don't do is help with the future maintenance. And I will say this: most of the city services don't come from property tax. That's not really what pays for things. So usually, when you have development, it's a cost to the city. It's a liability. It's not an asset. Prior to, I talked about looking at accounting a little bit. I started life as an accountant. Don't care much for it, but it still runs around in my head a bit. But I like the idea of, for municipalities, for local governments, I like the idea of priority-based budgeting, rather than, in some cases, use zero-based budgeting, where every year everybody starts at zero and they put in their list of what they want to be able to do, and you try and take from the big pot. and you try and disperse funds to all the different departments so they can do things. What priority-based budgeting does, it's a real comprehensive review of the entire operating budget, everything, not individual departments, but everything. And what it allows you to do is identify and rank the services, the programs, the objectives, the results that you're trying to accomplish on the basis of what the community's values and priorities, okay? So sometimes you may not do something in this department because this other department has been lagging. So you base the budgeting on the priorities. And what I don't like that sometimes, and I spent a whole bunch of time with the Department of Defense, and I'm used to a government accounting, and a lot of times those budgets they really don't involve results, okay? And so priority-based budgeting does, and results are really why you'd elect me mayor. It's why you'd elect anyone else mayor. It's why the city council is there, city manager, is based on the results. Every organization, whether it's a governmental organization or your business or your family, the budget has to match the results, and results are what the city's in business to provide, okay? So for me, this kind of makes our accounting more accountable. So what do you think? Hopefully I went through that quick, but you can watch it again. But I wanted to give you ways of contacting me and letting me know what you think. Whether you agree, you disagree. If you agree, let me know kind of why. If you disagree, let me know kind of why. If you have an entirely different perspective or attitude, I'm always welcome to that. I think we want the best ideas. We don't want the best ideas from an individual or a group, okay? So my website is patfortrinidad.co for Colorado. My Facebook page is, it's on Facebook, but it's Pat for Trinidad with the number 4 in there for Pat for Trinidad. Both of these are ways to communicate directly with me. I think on my website I have a link to my calendar if you really want to get a little more engaged. Upcoming sessions, I'm going to be doing these up until November 1st, okay? The Wednesday before November 1st. We'll see what happens November 2nd, okay? I will tell you this, I'll be fine November 3rd. I love me some Trinidad, so it's all going to be good. So next I want to share some of my thoughts and positions and ideas on a social safety net, the things we do to help others, the things we do as neighbors, the things one does in the civil society. I want to talk about that a little bit. And then we'll talk about parking. Parking, I have a different perspective on parking, and so I'll share a little bit of that, my ideas or thoughts on that. And go ahead and make it a great day. Reach out and help a neighbor. And thanks very much.